Michael Thompson, a lonely millionaire CEO with no family, accepts an invitation from the mail clerk, Isabella Scott, to Christmas dinner. What happened next was unbelievable. What happens when a lonely millionaire CEO steps out of his comfort zone and accepts a simple Christmas dinner invitation? You won't believe how one night can change everything. Before we continue, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching the video from. And don't forget to subscribe. Michael Thompson sat in his lavish office, the glow of his computer screen illuminating the expansive room filled with opulent decorations and the faint scent of pine from a nearby Christmas tree. The flickering lights on the tree cast playful shadows on the walls, a stark contrast to the unyielding silence that enveloped him. Outside, the city was alive with festive cheer, but within the walls of Thompson Enterprises, the atmosphere felt heavy with isolation. Michael had always been a solitary figure, consumed by his work, yet on this Christmas Eve, the weight of his loneliness pressed down harder than usual. He glanced at a family photo framed on his desk, the faces smiling back at him like ghosts from a past life. It was a picture taken years ago, a time when laughter and love filled his home. Memories of holiday celebrations, filled with the warmth of familial bonds, danced through his mind like a distant melody. But that life seemed long gone, replaced by the cold, hard reality of board meetings and financial reports. He let out a sigh, the sound echoing in the spacious office, and turned his attention back to the screen, trying to bury himself in work once more. Just then, the door swung open, and in rushed Isabella Scott, the newly hired mail clerk. Her arms were laden with parcels, and her cheeks flushed with the brisk winter air. In her eagerness, she didn't notice Michael until it was too late. She bumped into him, sending a flurry of envelopes cascading to the floor like confetti. "Oh, I'm so sorry," she exclaimed, her bright blue eyes wide with surprise. Michael couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of the situation. No harm done, really. Just a minor disaster in an office filled with paperwork, he replied, bending down to help gather the scattered envelopes. Isabella joined him on the floor, her laughter infectious. "I guess I should have looked where I was going. These parcels are heavier than they look," she said, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear, her cheeks still rosy from the cold. As they collected the envelopes, their eyes met, and for a brief moment, Michael felt a spark of connection. There was something genuine about her, a warmth he hadn't encountered in a long time. "You must be in a hurry with all these packages," he said, handing her a particularly large envelope. "Absolutely. The mail waits for no one, especially not on Christmas Eve," Isabella replied, her enthusiasm brightening the dim office. "I'm just trying to get everything sorted before I head to my family's celebration." "Family celebration?" Michael echoed, a hint of longing in his voice. He could only imagine the joyous gatherings, the laughter, the warmth of family. Isabella nodded, her eyes lighting up. "Yes, we have a tradition of gathering every year. My mom makes the best holiday dinner, and there's always a ton of games and stories. You know, the kind of stuff that makes you feel grateful for the people in your life." Michael swallowed hard, the pang of loneliness returning. "That sounds lovely," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I haven't celebrated Christmas like that in years. Why not join us?" Isabella blurted out, her spontaneity catching him off guard. "I mean, if you're free, it would be great to have someone new around, and I'm sure my family would love to meet you." He blinked at her, surprised by the invitation. "Me? At your family's Christmas? Why not? It's just a dinner," she said with a bright smile, her enthusiasm palpable. "Besides, it's always more fun with more people. My mom loves to play host, and who doesn't enjoy a little holiday spirit?" Michael hesitated, the invitation stirring something within him. He had spent so many Christmases alone, buried in work and responsibilities, that the thought of stepping into a warm, bustling home filled with laughter and love was both enticing and terrifying. "I don't want to intrude," he said, the words feeling heavy on his tongue. "Oh, come on. You won't be intruding at all. My family welcomes everyone. You'll fit right in. I promise." Isabella insisted, her sincerity shining through. Michael's heart raced at the thought. He was a CEO, a man who had built his empire from the ground up, yet here he was, contemplating joining a stranger's family for Christmas. "All right," he finally said, a mix of excitement and apprehension flooding through him. "I'll come." "Really?" Isabella's face lit up, and she clapped her hands in delight. "That's fantastic. I'll text you the address. What time can you be there?" "Let's say around 6?" Michael replied, feeling a strange sense of anticipation he hadn't felt in years. "Perfect. I'll see you then," she exclaimed before gathering the last of the parcels and heading toward the door. But before she left, she turned back to him, her expression softening. "I really hope you enjoy it. It's going to be a lot of fun, I promise." As she exited the room, Michael sat back in his chair, a whirlwind of thoughts swirling in his mind. The prospect of joining Isabella's family for Christmas filled him with a mix of excitement and trepidation. Was he really ready to step out of his carefully constructed bubble of solitude? The office around him felt different now, the festive decorations no longer a reminder of what he was missing but a beacon of hope. For the first time in years, he felt the stirring of something he thought he had lost: connection. He picked up his phone and stared at the family photo on his desk, the faces smiling back at him, beckoning him to embrace the chance for something new. With renewed determination, he began to wrap up his work, the clock ticking closer to the time Isabella had suggested. As he typed away, he couldn't help but wonder what it would be like to be surrounded by warmth and laughter again. Would he feel out of place? Would he even know how to engage in such familial celebration? The night crept closer, and as Michael prepared to leave his office, he felt an unfamiliar flutter of nerves. He straightened his tie, adjusted his cufflinks, and took a deep breath, reminding himself that he was embarking on a journey that could potentially change everything. As he stepped out of the building and into the crisp winter air, the city lights twinkled like stars, and for the first time in a long time, he felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this Christmas would be different. Perhaps it was time to embrace the connections he had long denied himself. With each step toward Isabella's family celebration, Michael felt the icy walls around his heart begin to thaw, leaving him ready to discover the true spirit of the holiday season. As Michael Thompson stood in the dimly lit office, the sterile glow of his computer screen illuminated the ornate decorations that adorned the space. The towering Christmas tree, adorned with shimmering ornaments and twinkling lights, seemed to mock his loneliness. He had pored over reports and spreadsheets for what felt like an eternity, the weight of his responsibilities pressing down on him like a heavy blanket. Glancing at the family photo on his desk, he felt a familiar pang of nostalgia, a reminder of a life filled with warmth and connection, feelings he had long since buried beneath the demands of his career. Just then, the doors swung open, and Isabella Scott burst into the room, her arms laden with parcels. A flurry of envelopes slipped from her grasp, cascading to the floor like confetti. "Oh, I'm so sorry," she exclaimed, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment as she bent down to gather the scattered items. Michael couldn't help but chuckle at the sight of her flustered demeanor, a refreshing contrast to the sterile atmosphere of his office. "It's quite all right," he replied, a smile breaking through his earlier solemnity. "I think I was in need of a distraction anyway." Isabella looked up, her bright eyes sparkling with mischief. "Well, then consider yourself distracted. I'm just trying to finish up a few last-minute deliveries before heading home for the holidays." "Last minute? I thought everyone would be done by now," Michael said, raising an eyebrow. She shrugged, her expression shifting to one of determination. "Not everyone has the luxury of a quiet Christmas Eve. For some of us, it's just another day to catch up on work. But I can't complain. I love what I do." Michael admired her spirit. "You have that festive glow about you, even amidst the chaos." Isabella beamed at the compliment. "Thanks. I just think it's important to make the most of every moment. Life's too short to be miserable, right?" As they exchanged smiles, the conversation drifted towards their holiday traditions. Isabella animatedly described her family's Christmas celebrations, her eyes lighting up as she spoke of the joy and laughter that filled her home. "We have this tradition of baking cookies together, and then we get into this hilarious competition over who can decorate them the best. Spoiler alert, my daughter always wins, Michael listened intently, feeling an unfamiliar warmth swell within him. "That sounds wonderful," he said, a hint of longing creeping into his voice. "I haven't celebrated Christmas like that in years. Why not join us this year?" Isabella suggested suddenly, her enthusiasm contagious. "I mean, if you're not too busy with work, my family would love to have you." Michael hesitated. The thought of stepping into a world so vibrant and alive felt both exhilarating and daunting. He could picture himself standing awkwardly in the corner, an outsider among their laughter and joy. Yet, there was something about Isabella's warm invitation that tugged at his heart. "You really wouldn't mind?" "Not at all. It would be great to have another person to celebrate with. Plus, I assure you, we're a fun bunch." With a deep breath, Michael nodded. "All right, I'll come. Just let me know what time." "Perfect. You won't regret it," she said, her smile widening. "Now, let me finish up here, and we can head out together." As they walked through the quiet office corridors, the sound of their footsteps echoed off the marble floors. Isabella chatted animatedly about her dreams and aspirations, sharing stories of her journey as a single mother. Michael listened intently, captivated by her resilience and determination. "Things haven't always been easy," she admitted, her voice softening. "But I've learned to adapt and keep moving forward for my daughter's sake. She's my world, you know?" "I can only imagine," Michael replied, feeling a connection deepen within him. "It takes a lot of strength to raise a child on your own." Isabella smiled, a hint of pride shining through. "It's worth it. Every struggle makes the moments of joy even more special. Speaking of which, we're having a big family dinner tonight. You'll love my mom's cooking." Michael chuckled, feeling a flicker of anticipation. "I've heard her cooking is legendary." "Legendary is an understatement. Just wait until you try her famous roast. It's to die for." They stepped outside into the crisp night air, the glow of streetlights twinkling like stars against the backdrop of the dark sky. As they walked toward Isabella's car, Michael couldn't shake the feeling of being out of place. He was a CEO, a man used to power suits and board meetings, not a casual family gathering. Yet, the prospect of experiencing a genuine Christmas celebration filled him with a sense of hope. Arriving at Isabella's family home, he was immediately enveloped by the warm aroma of cinnamon and roasted meat. The sound of laughter spilled out into the porch, wrapping around him like a comforting blanket. Isabella turned to him, her expression glowing with excitement. "Welcome to my chaos. Prepare yourself for a night of laughter, love, and maybe a bit of friendly competition over the cookie decorating." Michael chuckled, stepping inside the bustling household. The living room was a kaleidoscope of colors, adorned with festive decorations and twinkling lights. A large tree stood proudly in the corner, its branches heavy with ornaments and shimmering tinsel. The scene felt like something out of a holiday movie, a stark contrast to his quiet office filled with paperwork. "Isabella, you made it," a voice called out, and a woman rushed forward, enveloping Isabella in a warm embrace. "And who's this?" "This is Michael, Mom. He's joining us for Christmas dinner," Isabella introduced, her voice brimming with joy. "Michael, welcome. I'm Isabella's mom, and you're just in time for dinner." Michael felt a rush of warmth as Isabella's mother took his hand, leading him further into the house where a large dining table was set, adorned with festive decorations and an array of delicious dishes. Family members gathered around, exchanging stories and laughter, their voices creating a symphony of joy. "I hope you're hungry," Isabella's mom said, gesturing to the spread. "We've got everything from honey-glazed ham to mashed potatoes, and of course, my famous green bean casserole." Michael couldn't help but smile at the sight. "This looks incredible." As they took their seats, Michael noticed the way Isabella's family interacted. There was an ease and familiarity among them, a sense of belonging that he had longed for in his own life. He felt like an outsider, yet strangely welcomed. "Tell us about yourself, Michael." One of the younger relatives chimed in, curiosity lighting up their eyes. Michael hesitated, unsure of how to share his life without sounding like he was bragging. "Well, I work in finance, and I've spent most of my life focused on my career." Isabella leaned in, her eyes sparkling. "But he's also a great guy with a big heart," she interjected, causing Michael to blush slightly. "Thanks, Isabella," he said, chuckling softly. "I'm just trying to figure things out, like everyone else." As the evening progressed, laughter filled the air, mixed with the sounds of clinking glasses and the delightful aroma of food. Michael shared stories about his career, and to his surprise, the family listened intently, offering their own anecdotes and insights. "Sometimes, it's easy to forget what really matters in life," Michael mused, glancing around the table at the warmth and love surrounding him. Isabella's mother nodded in agreement. "That's right. Family and connections are what make the journey worthwhile." Michael felt a profound shift within him. Here, amidst the laughter and love, he realized how much he had been missing. The emptiness he had felt for so long began to fill, replaced by the warmth of genuine connection and the spirit of the holiday season. Later, as they sat together around the fire, sharing stories of past Christmases, Michael felt a sense of belonging he hadn't known he craved. Isabella's laughter was infectious, and her family's acceptance of him felt like a gift he never expected to receive. "I'm really glad I came," he said, looking at Isabella, who smiled back at him with a warmth that ignited something within him. "Me too, Michael. You're part of the family now," she replied, her voice soft yet filled with sincerity. As the night wore on, Michael knew that this Christmas would be a turning point in his life, a moment of awakening to the true meaning of connection, love, and the spirit of the season. It was a night he would cherish forever, a night that marked the beginning of a new chapter. As the door swung open to the vibrant living room, Michael Thompson stepped inside, his senses immediately overwhelmed by the warm atmosphere that enveloped him. Fairy lights adorned every corner, casting a soft glow over the cheerful faces of Isabella's family. Laughter bubbled up from a group gathered around the dining table, where an array of festive dishes beckoned invitingly. The scent of roasted turkey and spiced cider wafted through the air, wrapping him in nostalgia and comfort. "Michael, you made it." Isabella's mother, a woman in her 50s with a welcoming smile and twinkling eyes, rushed forward to embrace him. "Welcome to our home. We're so glad you could join us." "Thank you for having me," Michael replied, feeling the warmth of her hug seep into his often cold demeanor. He noticed how she radiated genuine happiness, a stark contrast to the emptiness he had felt in his high-rise office just hours before. Isabella stood beside him, her eyes sparkling with pride as she watched her family envelop him in their warmth. "Everyone, this is Michael, my new friend from work," she announced, her voice filled with enthusiasm. "He's going to celebrate Christmas with us tonight." Michael offered a tentative smile, uncertain of how he would fit into this lively gathering. He had spent so many years isolated in his corporate bubble, and now, surrounded by Isabella's loving family, he felt like an outsider peering in. "Come on, Michael, let's get you a drink," Isabella said, gently guiding him toward the kitchen. As they walked, Michael couldn't help but notice the cheerful decorations, a mix of handmade ornaments and family photos that adorned the walls, each telling a story of love and togetherness. "Is this how every Christmas is for you?" he asked, curiosity lacing his tone. "It is. We love to celebrate together," she replied, pouring him a glass of eggnog. "It's all about family, laughter, and sharing memories. I hope you enjoy it." Michael took the drink, the creamy sweetness surprising him. "I've spent many Christmases alone," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper as he glanced down at the glass. "This is different." Isabella's expression softened, her empathy palpable. "You're not alone tonight, Michael. You're part of our family now," she said with a reassuring smile, and in that moment, Michael felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. As they returned to the living room, Michael was welcomed by a chorus of cheerful greetings. The family had gathered around the tree, where presents piled high awaited eager hands. The excitement was contagious, and Michael couldn't help but feel a sense of belonging wash over him. For the first time in years, he felt like he was part of something larger than himself. "Michael, why don't you help us with the gifts?" Isabella's younger brother, Jake, called out, his eyes wide with anticipation. "We need someone strong to lift the big ones." Michael chuckled, stepping forward as he picked up a large present decorated with bright green and red ribbons. "I think I can manage," he said, his spirits lifting as he engaged with the children, their laughter ringing in his ears. "Be careful. That one is for Grandma," Isabella teased, watching him with a playful glint in her eye. Michael found himself relaxing, the laughter and joy around him slowly melting the barriers he had built over the years. As the evening unfolded, stories began to flow freely between the family members. They shared tales of past Christmases, recounting cherished memories that made Michael feel like a spectator in a world he had long forgotten. He listened intently as they reminisced, his heart swelling with a longing for the connections he had missed. "Michael, what's your favorite Christmas memory?" Isabella's sister, Lily, asked, her curiosity piqued. Michael hesitated. He had always associated Christmas with the emptiness of his office, the absence of laughter in his life. "I suppose. I remember my parents trying to make it special when I was a kid," he finally said, his voice thick with emotion. "But it never felt like this." "Then let's make sure it feels special for you tonight," Isabella declared, her enthusiasm infectious. She turned to her family. "How about a game? We could play charades." The suggestion was met with cheers, and soon the living room transformed into a stage for laughter and playful competition. Michael found himself caught up in the spirited activity, his initial reservations fading away with each round. He watched as Isabella mimed exaggerated actions, her laughter echoing through the room, and for the first time in a long while, he laughed freely, his heart lightening with every shared joke. "Come on, Michael. You can't just stand there. Join in," Isabella encouraged, pulling him into the game. With every gesture and every shared laugh, he felt the walls he had built around himself begin to crumble. Okay, just one try," he relented, mimicking a penguin as he waddled around the room, earning a chorus of giggles from the family. In that moment, he realized how much he had missed this, how long he had deprived himself of joy by isolating himself in his corporate world. As the night wore on, they moved from games to storytelling, and Michael was drawn into the warmth of their shared experiences. They spoke of dreams, aspirations, and even their challenges, revealing the vulnerabilities that made them human. Isabella's tales of motherhood and her laughter-filled misadventures captivated him, and he marveled at her resilience. "Sometimes it feels like a juggling act, but I wouldn't trade it for anything," she said, her eyes shining with passion. "Every moment is worth it, especially when you have family around." Michael's heart ached at her words. He had spent years chasing success, believing it would bring him happiness, yet here he was, surrounded by love and connection, feeling more fulfilled than he ever had in his polished office. "You're an amazing mother, Isabella," he said sincerely. "Your daughter is lucky to have you." "Thank you, Michael," she replied, her voice softening. "It means a lot to hear that." Just as the warmth of the evening enveloped him, the shrill ring of Michael's phone cut through the laughter. The room quieted, and he felt the familiar weight of responsibility settle back onto his shoulders. He glanced at the screen, recognizing the name of a business associate, his heart sinking. "Excuse me for a moment," he said apologetically, stepping away from the festivities. The laughter and warmth faded behind him as he answered the call. "Hello? Michael, we need to discuss the merger. It's urgent," the voice on the other end demanded. Urgency laced through the words. As he walked outside, the cool night air hit him like a wave. He felt torn between two worlds, one filled with love and joy, the other steeped in the pressures of his corporate life. The distraction of the celebration was slowly replaced by the looming responsibilities that had haunted him for years. Michael listened intently, his mind racing through the implications of the conversation. As he analyzed the situation, he found himself wishing more than ever that he could just stay inside, immersed in the laughter and connection he had begun to cherish. But the demands of the business world were relentless, pulling at him with a familiar grip. "I understand. I'll be there first thing in the morning," he replied, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. As he ended the call, he stared into the night, grappling with the choices before him. Would he return to the warmth of Isabella's family, or would he retreat back to the cold, sterile world of boardrooms and balance sheets? Taking a deep breath, he turned back toward the house, determined to not let the pressures of his job overshadow the joy he had just begun to embrace. As he stepped back inside, the laughter greeted him like a warm hug, and he made a silent vow to cherish this moment, to allow himself to be part of something meaningful. Michael stood on the snowy front porch of Isabella's family home, the festive sounds of laughter and holiday cheer drifting through the door behind him. The stark contrast between the joyous celebration inside and the cold bite of the winter air around him was palpable. He had stepped out to take a business call, a necessary interruption that now felt like a weight on his shoulders. "Michael, are you there?" The voice on the other end was sharp, cutting through the tranquility of the evening. It was Bob, his right-hand man, sounding more frantic than usual. "We need to discuss the merger. There are issues cropping up that could derail everything." Michael rubbed his temples, trying to suppress the frustration bubbling within him. He had been immersed in the warmth of family, the laughter of children, the delightful chaos of holiday celebrations. It felt like a dream he was now being pulled away from. "Can't this wait until after the holidays, Bob? It's Christmas Eve. Listen, I know it's the holidays, but this is serious. If we don't act now, we could lose everything we've worked for. You know that." Bob's voice was insistent, and Michael could almost envision him pacing back and forth in the office, the fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows on his worried face. "Fine," Michael replied, his heart sinking as he resigned himself to the demands of his corporate life. "What's the problem?" As Bob launched into a detailed explanation of the potential pitfalls surrounding the merger, Michael's mind began to drift. He glanced back at the door, where the faint glow of lights illuminated the silhouettes of Isabella's family as they played games and shared stories. He could hear Isabella's laughter, a sound that resonated in his heart and reminded him of what he had been missing for so long. "Michael, are you still with me?" Bob's voice jolted him back to reality. "Yeah, I'm here." He forced himself to focus. "Keep me updated. I'll be back in the office on the 2nd. We'll sort this out then." After ending the call, Michael took a deep breath, trying to shake off the corporate tension that clung to him like a heavy coat. The stars twinkled brightly above, and the faint smell of pine and roasted meats wafted through the air. He longed to return to the warmth of the celebration, but guilt gnawed at him. He had left them for work, and he could see his own reflection in the frost of the glass door, an outsider peering into a world of connection and joy. Gathering his thoughts, he opened the door and stepped back inside. The atmosphere was still vibrant, filled with the sounds of chatter and laughter. However, he couldn't help but notice the slight shift in energy when he re-entered. Isabella was mid-laugh with her younger brother, but as she turned to him, her smile faltered ever so slightly. "Everything okay?" she asked, concern lacing her voice. "Yeah, just business," he replied, forcing a smile to mask the unease within him. "I'm sorry for stepping out. I didn't mean to disrupt the fun." "It's fine," she said, but he could see the disappointment in her eyes. "We were just about to start a new game. Want to join?" Michael hesitated, feeling the weight of his responsibilities pressing down on him. The call had pulled him away from a moment that felt genuine and alive. "I'd love to," he said, stepping further into the room, determined to shake off the shadows of his corporate life. As the night wore on, they played games, shared stories, and enjoyed a sumptuous dinner that Isabella's mother had prepared. Michael found himself laughing freely, the sound unfamiliar yet liberating. The warmth of the family enveloped him, and for the first time in years, he felt a flicker of belonging. But the earlier call hung over him like a dark cloud. He knew that once the festivities ended, he would return to his cold office, full of numbers and spreadsheets, and the hollow feeling that came with it. "Michael, you should definitely join us for our Christmas tradition," Isabella's brother exclaimed, pulling him back into the moment. "We always open one present before midnight." "Just one?" Michael asked, feigning reluctance. "Just one, and it's a surprise." The boy's excitement was contagious, drawing Michael in. "All right, just one," he relented, his heart warming at the thought of being included in such a cherished tradition. As the family gathered around the tree, Michael sat among them, feeling like he had slipped into a new skin. He watched as each family member selected a gift, their eyes lighting up with anticipation. When it was his turn, He reached for a small box wrapped in bright red paper, adorned with a shiny green bow. "What is it?" Isabella asked, her own eyes sparkling with curiosity. "I have no idea," he admitted, shaking the box slightly, "but it feels light." "Open it," the family urged in unison, their enthusiasm infectious. With a swift motion, Michael tore through the wrapping paper, revealing a simple yet elegant silver ornament. It was shaped like a snowflake, intricately designed and beautiful in its simplicity. "Wow, that's beautiful," he said, genuinely impressed. "It's handmade," Isabella's mother chimed in. "We make one every year, and this is the first time we've had a guest join us for our tradition." Michael's heart swelled at the gesture. It was more than just an ornament. It was a symbol of acceptance, of being welcomed into a family that had room for him, if only for a night. He glanced at Isabella, who beamed with pride, and for a moment, he felt a longing to stay in this moment, to forget about the world outside. But as the clock ticked closer to midnight, the earlier call from Bob crept back into his mind, a reminder of the responsibilities waiting for him. He knew he couldn't ignore them forever. After the gifts were opened and the laughter began to fade, Michael sat in a corner, watching Isabella interact with her family. The way she moved, the way she laughed, and the way she cared for everyone around her resonated deeply with him. He admired her resilience, her ability to find joy in simple things amid the chaos of life. Suddenly, an idea struck him. "Isabella," he called, pulling her attention away from her little brother. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. What's on your mind?" she replied, her expression shifting to one of curiosity. "I know this might sound odd, but I'd like to help you with your daughter's Christmas gift. Maybe we could go shopping together tomorrow?" The words spilled out before he could second-guess himself. Isabella's eyes widened, and a smile began to form on her lips. "You'd do that for us?" "Absolutely," he said, feeling a sense of determination welling up inside him. "I want to make it up to you for stepping away tonight. Let's make it a fun outing, just the two of us and your daughter." Her smile brightened the dim room like the lights on the tree. "That would be amazing." "Thank you, Michael. You have no idea how much that means to me." As the family cheered, Michael felt a rush of warmth envelop him. He had stepped outside to take a call that threatened to pull him back into his lonely existence. Yet here he was, making plans for the next day, and for the first time in a long while, he felt excited about the future. Isabella's family rallied around him, their laughter and joy becoming a soothing balm to his weary spirit. He realized that he had been missing this connection, not just with them but with life itself. No longer was he just a solitary CEO. He was becoming part of something larger, something filled with love and warmth. As the clock struck midnight, signaling the arrival of Christmas Day, Michael made a silent wish. He wished for more moments like this, for more connections that could fill the void he had lived in for years. And as he watched the family embrace the holiday spirit, he felt a flicker of hope ignite within him, a hope that perhaps he could finally change the course of his life. The night ended in warmth and laughter, but Michael knew the journey was just beginning. He was ready to embrace the unexpected turns that life had in store for him. The day after Christmas arrived with a crispness in the air that hinted at the fresh start Michael Thompson had been yearning for. He lay in bed for a moment, the soft glow of sunlight filtering through the curtains, a stark contrast to the fluorescent lights of his office that had illuminated his long nights of solitude. For once, he didn't feel the relentless pressure of corporate obligations weighing him down. Instead, he felt a flicker of excitement about his plans with Isabella Scott. As he dressed, he found himself smiling at the thought of her laughter, the way her eyes sparkled when she spoke about her family traditions. It was a warmth he had not experienced in years, and it was oddly comforting. Michael slipped into a tailored sweater, a casual departure from his usual suits, and made his way to the mall where they had agreed to meet. The mall was a whirlwind of activity, thrumming with the energy of last-minute holiday shopping. Families bustled about, the air filled with the scent of cinnamon and pine, the sounds of laughter and cheerful music creating an unexpectedly festive atmosphere. As he stepped out of his car, Michael took a deep breath, preparing himself for the chaos ahead. When he spotted Isabella near the entrance, she was a beacon of light amidst the crowd. Her dark hair framed her face, and her smile was infectious as she waved at him. She wore a cozy red scarf that accentuated her warm complexion, and Michael felt an unexpected flutter of nerves mingled with anticipation. "Hey, you made it!" she exclaimed, her voice bright and welcoming. "I wasn't sure if you'd brave the madness." "I wouldn't miss it for the world," he replied, his heart racing slightly. "Lead the way." As they walked through the mall, the cacophony of holiday shoppers surrounding them, they exchanged stories about their childhoods and their dreams for the future. Isabella animatedly recounted her memories of Christmas mornings filled with excitement, her daughter's joy at unwrapping presents, and the simple pleasures of home-cooked meals. "What about you?" she asked, glancing up at him. "What were your holidays like growing up?" Michael hesitated, the memories of his past feeling like a distant echo. "It was different," he finally said, choosing his words carefully. "My parents were always busy with work. I don't recall many family gatherings. Mostly, it was just me and the staff at our estate, which wasn't quite the same." Isabella's expression softened. "That sounds lonely. I can't imagine not having family around during the holidays." "Yeah," he replied, the weight of his past creeping back into his voice. "I suppose that's why I ended up working late last night. I didn't know how to fill the void." She looked at him, her eyes sincere. "You were brave to join us yesterday. It takes courage to step out of your comfort zone." Michael felt a warmth spread through him at her words. "Thank you, Isabella." It felt good to be part of something, even if just for a few hours. As they continued to navigate through the throngs of shoppers, the atmosphere shifted abruptly when they stumbled upon a group of Michael's business associates. They were standing near a high-end store, their laughter ringing through the air, and Michael's heart sank. "Look who it is," one of them sneered, spotting Michael and Isabella. "The big shot CEO, slumming it with the common folk." Michael bristled at the comment, feeling a flush of embarrassment rise to his cheeks. He had spent years building his reputation, and here they were, tearing it down in an instant. He tried to maintain his composure, but the sting of their words lingered. "Come on, Michael," another associate chimed in, a mocking grin on his face. "You could do better than this. You've got the money to shop at places like this. Why waste your time here?" Isabella's eyes narrowed, and she stepped forward, her expression fierce. "Excuse me, but wealth doesn't define a person's worth. Michael is here because he values genuine connections, something you clearly wouldn't understand." The group fell silent, taken aback by her boldness. Michael felt a rush of admiration for her. He had been so focused on the judgment of his peers that he had almost forgotten the joy of being with someone who saw beyond the surface. "I appreciate you saying that," he said, his voice steady, despite the tension in the air. "I think it's important to remember that success isn't just about money or status. It's about who you surround yourself with and the relationships you build." Isabella smiled at him, a spark of pride in her eyes. "Exactly. Life is too short to worry about what others think." Michael felt a sense of liberation wash over him. In that moment, he realized that he didn't need to conform to the expectations of his associates. Their laughter faded into the background as he focused on the woman standing beside him, fiercely defending him against the very world he had been trying to escape. "Let's go find that perfect gift for your daughter," he said, redirecting the conversation, eager to leave the negativity behind. "What does she want?" Isabella's face lit up, the earlier tension dissipating as she animatedly described her daughter's love for dolls and art supplies. Michael listened intently, his heart swelling with affection for both Isabella and her daughter, who had unknowingly become a part of his life in such a short span of time. They wandered through the toy store, and Michael found himself truly enjoying the experience. He picked up various dolls, playsets, and art kits, each time asking Isabella's opinion, and she laughed, her eyes sparkling with delight. "This one," she exclaimed, holding up a beautifully crafted doll with a vibrant dress. "She'll love this. It's just like the one I had when I was a kid." "Then it's settled," Michael said, grinning. "Let's get it." As they made their way to the checkout, Michael felt a profound shift within himself. Just days ago, he had been a solitary figure, weighed down by the pressures of success and the isolation it brought. Now, he was surrounded by warmth, laughter, and a sense of belonging that he hadn't realized he was missing. "Thank you for today," he said sincerely as they exited the store, the doll carefully wrapped in a festive bag. "I didn't expect to enjoy shopping this much." Isabella laughed, a melodious sound that brightened the chilly afternoon. "I'm glad. It's fun to see someone else get excited about the holidays." They walked back to the car, the air crisp and invigorating. Michael felt lighter, as if the burdens he had carried for so long were beginning to lift. For the first time in years, he felt hope for the future. A future that included connections, laughter, and perhaps even love. As they drove back, a comfortable silence enveloped them, punctuated by the occasional shared glance and smile. Michael realized that he was no longer just a solitary CEO. He was becoming a part of something real, something beautiful. The spirit of Christmas had sparked a change within him, and he was ready to embrace it. As the holiday season began to wind down, the glimmering lights and festive decorations of the office took on a bittersweet quality for Michael Thompson. He stood gazing out of the large glass windows of his corner office, the city below bustling with life and excitement. The New Year's Eve party he had planned for his company was just around the corner, and excitement buzzed in the air, but Michael felt a different kind of anticipation. This time, it was not just about the success of the event, but rather about sharing it with Isabella Scott and her daughter Lily. He had invited them both to the celebration, a gesture that felt significant to him. Isabella had brought warmth into his life, illuminating the dark corners of his solitude. After much contemplation, he had decided to show them a different side of his world, where the glittering facade of corporate success met the genuine joy of human connection. As he prepared for the evening, Michael dressed meticulously in a tailored suit, ensuring that every detail was perfect. He glanced at his reflection, noting the subtle lines of worry etched on his forehead. Tonight would be a test of his newfound commitment to change, a challenge to remain true to the values Isabella had instilled in him. Would he still feel the weight of his former self, or could he embrace this new chapter? The venue, an elegant ballroom in one of the tallest buildings in the city, was adorned with shimmering chandeliers and opulent decorations. A live band played soft jazz, and the atmosphere buzzed with laughter and chatter as employees mingled with their families. Michael's heart raced as he spotted Isabella and Lily entering the room, her eyes wide with wonder at the lavish surroundings. "Michael," Isabella called, her smile radiant as she approached him. Lily clung to her side, her small hand gripping her mother's tightly. "This place is incredible." Michael felt a rush of pride at her excitement. "I'm glad you're here," he replied, kneeling slightly to Lily's level. "What do you think of the decorations?" "They're so sparkly," Lily exclaimed, her eyes sparkling in return. "Can we dance?" "Absolutely. As soon as we finish greeting everyone," Michael said, standing back up and gesturing for them to follow him into the crowd. As they moved through the ballroom, Michael introduced Isabella and Lily to his colleagues, feeling a new sense of ease in their presence. The warmth of Isabella's spirit enveloped him like a cozy blanket, and he couldn't help but feel grateful for the connection they had forged. However, as the evening progressed, Michael noticed a familiar face looming in the crowd. His business associate Robert, who had often belittled him for mingling with ordinary people. Michael felt a twinge of apprehension as Robert approached, his expression smug, a glint of mischief in his eye. "Michael, I see you've decided to play host to your little friends," Robert sneered, gesturing vaguely at Isabella and Lily. "I hope you're not too distracted from your real responsibilities." Michael's stomach tightened, but he took a deep breath, determined not to let Robert's words taint the joy of the evening. "Isabella is a valued friend," he replied evenly, glancing at her. "And I believe everyone deserves to be celebrated, regardless of their background." Robert chuckled, clearly amused. But before he could retort, Isabella stepped forward, her voice firm. "You may think you have it all figured out, but money doesn't define a person's worth, Robert. Michael has shown me that." The atmosphere shifted, and Michael felt a swell of gratitude for Isabella's support. It was a stark contrast to Robert's arrogance, a reminder that real connections mattered more than wealth or status. "Touché," Robert replied, visibly irritated. "Just remember, Michael, that the business world doesn't take kindly to sentimentality. Then maybe it's time for a change, Michael countered, surprising even himself with the conviction in his voice. He could feel Isabella's encouraging gaze behind him, reinforcing his newfound resolve. As the night continued, Michael found himself increasingly at ease, buoyed by the love and support surrounding him. He watched as Isabella danced with Lily, their laughter ringing through the ballroom, a melody of pure joy. In that moment, Michael realized what had been missing from his life all along: authentic relationships that transcended the superficial connections of business. But just as he began to relax, a commotion erupted near the entrance. A group of guests whispered and pointed, their eyes glued to Robert, who was now in a heated argument with another associate. The tension escalated, and Michael felt a knot form in his stomach. "Michael, you need to see this." One of his senior executives beckoned him urgently. "It's about Robert." Michael approached the scene, his heart pounding. He overheard snippets of conversation, whispers of unethical practices, accusations of embezzlement. Robert's face twisted with anger as he defended himself, but the truth was unraveling around him. "Michael, you can't let him get away with this," one of his associates urged. "If these allegations are true, it could damage the company's reputation." Taking a deep breath, Michael stepped forward, commanding attention. "Enough," he declared, his voice cutting through the chaos. "If these accusations are valid, we will address them as a company. Integrity is paramount to our success." Robert glared at him, but Michael felt an unexpected rush of empowerment. He had once feared being alone in this position, but now he was fueled by the love and support of Isabella and her family. This was his opportunity to redefine what leadership meant to him. As the evening came to a close, Michael stood with Isabella and Lily, watching as the final countdown to the new year began. The clock ticked down, and a sense of hope filled the air. 10, 9, 8, the crowd chanted, and Michael felt a warmth spreading through him. He glanced at Isabella, who smiled back at him, her eyes sparkling with excitement. 7, 6, 5. In that moment, he knew that his life had irrevocably changed. The connections he had forged, the love he had discovered, meant more than any business deal ever could. 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year. As fireworks erupted outside, Michael leaned down to kiss Isabella, feeling the joy radiate between them. Lily cheered, her small hands clapping in delight, and in that moment, Michael understood what true success felt like, surrounded by those who mattered most, ready to embrace the future with open arms and an open heart. With the dawn of the new year, Michael was not just a wealthy CEO anymore. He was a man transformed by love, connection, and the spirit of the holiday season. Embracing the challenges ahead, he was ready to reinvest in his community, to foster genuine relationships, and to lead with compassion rather than fear. His journey had just begun, and he was eager to see where it would take him.